about a fish kill in Norwalk Harbor, do you wonder what has happened? When you read that the lobster catch from Long Island Sound continues to fall every year, or that you can't eat fish caught in our rivers, do you ask what the problem is? Have you ever thought about where fertilizers and pesticides go after being dumped on our yards and gardens, or what the impact on our stream is from pet waste and the growing population of Canadian geese? How about all the trash on the side of the roads that gets washed away somewhere? Would you have... Let's join our host Joanna Stating for today's Person of Voice.
If you're concerned about problems with our waters and harbors, then you'll be glad to know that someone's looking out for you. Today's guest is a staff scientist in Earth Place in Westport, a non-profit organization dedicated to promoting environmental awareness. He's also director of Harbor Watch River Watch, a citizen monitoring program which has gathered data on our harbors and rivers for more than 20 years. During this time, he and his team have worked tirelessly to identify sources of pollution to our natural waterways and prod authorities to fix them. Please welcome Dick Harris. Dick, your effort began in 1986 gathering data on low oxygen levels in 3 local harbors. Tell us why you get interested and what you found.
Well, I was teaching an environmental class to CES students back in 1983 on Norwalk Harbor. When we got to mid-harbor with borrowed equipment, I found out that the oxygen levels were way too low. Based on this, I was concerned, obviously, went up to Yukon, Avery Point College, and talked to Dr. Barbara Welsh, who at that time was studying oxygen in the deeper waters. She was completely surprised, said we had no idea we had problems in estuaries, and do you want to do the tests? So we did, and what we found was that the upper end of Norwalk Harbor, based on man's abuse of property, poor flushing, was a potential death trap for any fish arriving there in the summer months.
In 1993, at a request of the DEP and the town of Westport, you expanded your scope to cover regional rivers. Could you talk about some of the waterways you cover and how they affect the communities they flow through? And also, what's the biggest threat to these rivers?
Well, we presently cover the Pequannock, Sasko Brook, Saugatuck, Aspetuck, Norwalk, Silver Mine, and most recently the 5 Mile River. All these rivers serve in one way or another, in one degree or another, to move man's waste products to Long Island Sound. Let's take Saugatuck River for an example. It starts at the main part of it starts at a big reservoir up in Reading. The reservoir is surrounded by 16,000 acres of trees, undisturbed forest, which means that the water leaving the reservoir is in pretty good shape. As it flows down to Long Island Sound, it's approached by lawns mowed to the water's edge, riparian buffer, the trees, natural growth removed, overuse of fertilizers, too many geese, too many pets, too many hard surfaces, and the results are quite polluted water by the time it reaches the Sound. Now, if I compare that to the Norwalk River, we have quite a difference there, because the Norwalk River begins up in Ridgefield, and it's polluted its entire length. Reason being, all the problems we talked about Saugatuck exist from Ridgefield down to Norwalk. When we get to Norwalk, we're into a quite different situation. Too many large storm drains, too much paved surfaces, too many commercial businesses crowded along the water's edge, and the problems just increase.
You also developed a state-certified bacterial laboratory and write quality assurance plans for the Federal Environmental Protection Agency. What role do state and federal agencies play in your work?
They provide the standards and the guidance by which we work. They provide the high standards that we aspire to make our laboratory work complete and in high quality. We also get numerous grants from them, and all from the DEP and also the EPA. Without them, we would not be able to monitor as many rivers as we do. We're extremely proud of our labs. It's taken us a long time to get them to where they are in terms of proficiency, volunteer approach to those laboratories, and to expand our capacity. We've just recently opened a new lab on Norwalk Harbor.
In addition to yourself and to other paid staff, your operation depends greatly on volunteers. Who are some of the groups and how do they help you expand your reach?
One of them is Squadron 72 of the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and they patrol an area outside of 5 Mile River Harbor, and on their patrol they do oxygen, salinity, and temperature readings for us. A second one would be the Westport League of Women Voters, and they have taken the Aspetuck River under their wing, They do it all by themselves now. Very proud of that fact. And a third group would be kayaking down under, located in 5 Mile River Harbor. They have taken that harbor under control and report all their data back to us.
So when one of these groups go out to a river monitoring site, what do they do?
They do a number of tests. They look for dissolved oxygen foremost, which is a necessary component if you want to have fish living in the river at all. They measure conductivity, which is a flow of current through water. That, rather than get in detail, spikes in that or variations in that mean that the water column is unstable and is receiving too many pollutants from the land. And finally, they do a good analysis of water temperature as they go. Water temperature is important because there's a lot of species of fish now that are threatened by water temperatures reaching extreme levels.
Last year you had 11 high school teams working from October to April on various rivers and streams. How can kids be trusted to produce accurate measurements that can be relied on by policymakers and town officials?
These kids come to us with a certain degree of knowledge to begin with from their high school training. They have chemistry, math, sciences of some sort. We're able to build on that. And we do that by hands-on training, getting them out in the field. We have a 4-week Saturday morning course in which we train them in all the details and elements and provide demonstrations of what we do. And finally, we get good support to the teachers. They give them grades on being involved and monitor the subject matter.
You also had success partnering with local authorities to identify and fix pollution problems, like the leak in Norwalk last year, where raw sewage was flowing directly into the harbor. What made you aware of the problem, and how did you go about finding a solution?
We do a weekly test of the entire Norwalk River from Ridgefield down to the harbor. And in one of those tests, we noticed bacteria counts starting to rise dramatically near the Post Road in Norwalk. Based on that, I took a walking tour of the riverbank and got about 100 yards back and found a large storm drain pumping raw sewage into the river. About 400,000 gallons had gone in so far. I reported that to the town conservation department and also Public Works, and within 4 hours they found out that a contractor had inadvertently hooked a bypass line, sewage bypass line, to the storm drain.
Wow, I think we all understand why we don't want raw sewage in our water supply. You also raised the alarm about the increasing amount of medical waste that's being dumped. What's the problem and what should we do about it?
That's a newly discovered problem. Medical waste of all kinds enters the sewage treatment plants. It comes through toilets, it comes through human waste. The sewage treatment plants are unable to process any of that. They're cold water processes. So medical waste comes in, it goes out. The effect on fish is quite dramatic. Fish of many kinds develop both sexes in the same fish. Therefore, they're unable to produce. Or they produce a preponderance of males or preponderance of females. We've reported to this estate. It's now in front of the legislature. They're trying to do something about controlling meds. Ultimately, they should be collected and destroyed, not put down the toilets.
So finally, if one of our viewers want to find out more about EarthPlace and your work, or would like to be a volunteer, where should they go and look it up?
Well, they should call our website, www.earthplace.org. They should give us a call. They should come in. We presently have a large number of volunteers of all stripes. We have teenagers all the way up to senior citizens. We're looking for more. You don't have to be a scientist. You don't have to be skilled in any particular thing. You just have to have the passion for the waterways. You want to do it, you want to work hard, and you want to help us find the problems.
Today we heard about water quality monitoring in our harbors and rivers, and the threats of pollution and overdevelopment caused to fish and other wildlife. We've seen staff and volunteers work on labs in the field scientifically documenting the problem so that action can be taken correct. And we learned that everyone can help, from high school students to senior citizens. We would like to thank Dick Harris, staff and scientists of EarthPlace and Director of Harbor Watch River Watch, for coming in and sharing with us all the work he and his team are doing to make our environment a better place. I'm your host, Johanna Staden, asking you to please join us again next time as the students of Norwalk Community College bring to you person to person. Thank you and good day.